your Saturday edition of Wasatch Weekends. We hope you had a great Friday, and now you're going to continue into having a great Saturday. I cannot believe we are 5 days into February already. I feel like the time is flying by, but we just had Groundhog's Day, which means 6 more weeks of winter is coming our way. I'm your host, Maddie Evans, and we've got a great show in store for you, so we hope that you spend the next little bit with us. But let's talk about some of the great things that are taking place in and around our community. If you're looking for a great date night idea, maybe right around Valentine's Day, well then the Utah Symphony is your answer, because they've got a wonderful Cupid special, but there's an incredible performance starting next week with Storm Large and the Utah Symphony. Love Storm is happening next week, Friday, February 10th and 11th, starting at 7:30 p.m. Just in time for Valentine's weekend, the incomparable Storm Large delivers a love letter as only she could, bringing her incredible vocals and sultry dynamic to the stage. In addition, the Utah Symphony is offering a special Valentine's date night package, the Cupid Special. So you can go online and you can look into that and look for a great way to spend your Valentine's Day with a loved one. Now, I've heard her voice is amazing, so get out there and check it out. Something else that's taking place over the course of the next few days is the Park City Chamber and Visitors Bureau is opening the house for you to come in, give some more ideas, and speak to what maybe some of the businesses here in Park City want from them as some more support. So you can stop by anytime between 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., grab a cup of coffee from Hugo Coffee, and join a friendly, informal conversation. This event is free and open to the public, so make sure that you go check it out, and that way you can chat with the CEO and just give your perspective and be included in the talk. Now, something else that you might want to check out if you are a business owner is we are looking at a great way to save some water as we are approaching those warmer temperatures. I mean, we have 6 more weeks of winter, but it's going to be here before we know it, because this year is flying by. So join the Green Business Program for a lunch and learn more about water conservation on Wednesday, February 15th from 12 to 1 p.m. at the Blair Education Center. Businesses will learn about the water forecast in Summit County, and this is just a great way to approach the new year, and especially those warmer temperatures that we do have coming our way. So make sure that you check this out. Now, some exciting news here in our community is the Park City Council on Thursday gave the go-ahead to plan to expand recreational facilities. So if you love pickleball, which is a rising sport across the country, well then you should get excited, because they're going to add some more complex with 24 pickleball courts. So if you're a fan of the sport, which is rising again in popularity, well then this is an opportunity to play at Quinn's Junction. So make sure that you check it out. Now we're going to take a look at that local weather forecast, and when we come back, we've got more of the show.
This resort report is brought to you by Sun and Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Looking for a great book to read, and have you been struggling maybe in your career choice? Well, then there is one out there on the market called Suits and Skirts, Game On, The Battle of Corporate Power. And we've got the author joining me first thing this morning, Teresa Freeburn. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you, Madeline.
I really love everything about your book. Unfortunately, I did not have time to go through every single chapter, but I did skim each chapter, especially because there's such good names in there, like the one that's like, "Stop, you're stepping on my skirt." And so let's talk about what inspired you to write this book.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess the other part too is it's not just about the book, but it's about who I directed it to. So I've directed the book specifically to men, and I think that the whole reason that came out is because no one else seems to have done it. Okay, for starters, but I don't think it's any secret here. Women have been seeking power for decades, but to no avail. And my thesis is that men are actually the ones holding and keeping women back from attaining powerful C-suite and board positions. And the bottom line is what's really important here because it's to the detriment of the corporate bottom line. And of course, the reasons vary, but the results don't. I think you just have to do the math, and women are still very highly underrepresented in leadership roles. And in the book, I'm actually speaking directly to the men that are blocking women's corporate advancement. So it's kind of this no hold barred discussion, and it will no doubt ruffle some feathers out there.
And you wrote this book, I would imagine, from some of your personal experience and what you had been through in the corporate world.
Yes, I did. I have worked for decades in the financial services industry, which is a pretty male-dominated industry to start with. So, yes, I bring all of those learnings over the many decades and try and get them into some concise matter here. And I guess what fuels me on this too is, I keep hearing you read the newspaper clippings and they talk about, all the progress that women have made in senior management and advancement in leadership, but I guess at the end of the day, if you call an increase in the Fortune 500 of 40 female CEOs over the course of 50 years a success, then I think we all need to question those math skills. One female CEO in 1972 and now 44 in 2022, 50 years. I don't think that's an improvement. And I think it's ridiculous and it's pathetic and it's shameful. So, I think what happens, we sort of get complacent when we hear the news. We hear about all the progress. We isolate one woman that got a promotion and we talk about that. But at the end of the day, I don't know, I feel that a goal like 50-50 would be a good way to set out a goal. And if you think of the population and the education that women now have and the history and experience that they have, it's like it's time for them to take their rightful place here. And I think the world will be very different if that can happen.
I love this so much. I'm one of 6 children and I have 4 brothers. And so even in my small household, I feel like it's a fight for power just amongst those little things. And so to take that to an industry much larger, let's take it to the big, huge corporate world, women do have to fight harder. And this is something I've recently noticed. I feel like the strategy that is used is they pit women against each other.
Oh, yeah, it's always easy to do that, right? It's like women are the blame for the reason why we can't be advanced corporately. I think it's about, there's some sabotaging going on out there, I believe, and that, corporations, which are primarily led by men, they seem to be a bit oblivious to it. They're indifferent, or worse, they're overtly obstructive to matters relating to the advancement of women. So if you really think about it, though, the major roadblock is men's lack of advocacy for women. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. But I think that there's still some pretty old-fashioned views out there. I think there's a lot of leaders that still consider that old, work family narrative to be a big problem still. Here's the reality. Women can have children and still be great at our jobs. Okay. I know it's a shocker, but, all these questions about maternity leave and, the motherhood penalty it is real. And these things are huge roadblocks for women to get ahead. And then, of course, you start talking about things like, what about the networks? We always say, oh, well, women, get involved with your networks. That's going to really help advance you in leadership. Here's the problem. Women's networks aren't working. Men's networks work really well because guess who they've got in those networks? All the men that are in those very powerful positions. We don't have as many in the women's networks. And I guarantee you, no man wants to join a women's network because there's no power there. Why would they? Where's the advancement going to come from? So
Uh-oh. I think we have maybe lost a little bit of connection, and I feel like all of these points that you are making are so fantastic, and this book is just so inspiring, not only for women to read it, but for men to read it. So let's go back to where we just left off with you talking about these groups and these networking groups.
Yes, my view there is that women's networks just aren't working. Men's networks work really well. And that's because there's a lot of powerful people in the men's network. So if you think about it, would you think a man would want to join a woman's network? Not a chance. There's no one there that they're going to gain more power from, learn from, follow the footsteps of. That just doesn't work that way. So we're at a disadvantage right there. And the boys clubs are pretty entrenched in corporations today. Just the idea that, men don't think anything of, going for a drink after work. What are women doing? We're rushing home to our families to get dinner on and get kids looked after and homework done and baths done.
Oh no, I think that we've lost your connection again, but all of this information is so powerful, and these are pieces and tidbits that people can get from your book so people can have this understanding. I feel like it's so powerful when women write books, sharing their experience. That way people can live through their eyes a little bit. And so this is a way for everyone to live through your eyes about what you went through in corporate America.
Thank you. Yes, it is. And I hope that folks get the same sort of takeaway that I did, and that is to imagine a world and what it would look like if women held a proportionate share of leadership roles, that is in the C-suite and at the board table. Think of what those agendas and those discussions and strategies and results will be. So that's what I leave your viewers with.
Well, I have another question for you. As you were writing the book, what steps did you learn along the way? Because obviously there's a lot that went into this book, a lot of personal experience, but you want more than just that. So what other resources did you use as you were writing the book?
Well, I did some primary research as well. I went out and did some online research with about 260 participants because I thought I want to have something to ground the book, make sure that it's not just Teresa's opinions here. And it was great because it really did sort of ground my thinking and my thesis here. So that was very helpful. But of course, I have so many stories. And as I start to talk to people in powerful positions and they start to tell me their stories, again, it just validates where I was coming from to start with. I think this is something we just don't talk about too much or not enough as to the reasons why women are sitting at that very stagnated level. To say that 25% of board positions are now filled by women, why? Why isn't it 50? I'm shocked by that. But to hear all of the reasons why, well, thank you, Teresa. You'd make a really good board member. However, we just don't have any openings at this time. Well, then make the damn openings. That's kind of how I feel. So I think that the more I talk to people out there, the more I want to go and buy, sort of write that next book because there's so much more to say. So.
There's a lot to say and there's a lot to learn from your books. Now, as it's going out into the world and people can get their hands on it, how do you think this could change experiences for women across the country?
Well, it's a good question you're asking because although I wrote it for men, that's really who it's directed at. I've talked to some of my mentees. I have a few women that are that like to chat with me on a regular basis, which is fantastic. I love doing that. And they just said, no, Teresa, it's great that you've written it to direct at men, but as a young woman, I needed a playbook and I just got one. And I think that that's just a very telling situation because I think that they honestly don't know about, what they should say when they're in positions that I've described in the book and how to react and sort of how to keep their cool, but yet get their point across. So, yeah, I think that was just a really great observation.
I think it's so powerful what you're doing only because you are becoming an activist for women all over, and whether it's at that C-suite and board level or whether it's at a lower position, like I was telling you, I worked in that marketing firm for a little while and it was hard work. I was fighting tooth and nail to constantly have my ideas be heard, but if the same idea was proposed by someone else, then it was immediately like, that was a great idea. And I was like, this makes no sense to me. Like I said that a week ago with a full pitch deck too.
And it's funny because I've had that exact same experience I've talked about in the book, and not once, not twice, several times where I had such a great idea. And then I realized, why is this now such a great idea? It wasn't an idea like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but now it is. So, and it was because a man in a more senior position in a leadership role actually made the position known to everyone, and everyone, oh, that's a great idea, but they weren't listening to me. So I feel sometimes that I'm a little, and this has gone back for decades, that I'm kind of invisible, even though you're sitting at an executive table, that your view just isn't as respected and considered as much as other men in the room. So it's real. The struggle is real.
It's so real. Now, if people would like to read your book, obviously it's directed towards men, but I do think it's a great playbook for women to get their hands on and maybe just give them those little tidbits of advice on how to talk to someone, how to stand up for themselves, learning from your experiences and all of the other research you've done. Where can they buy your book?
Right now, it's available on Amazon, so please go ahead and order that. Just look it up under Suits and Skirts, Game On, Freeborn, and you will get that. It's on pre-order until next week, and it gets released, so it'll be in your hands very shortly. It's also available on other booksellers like Barnes and Noble as well. So help yourself, and it's in Kindle, softcover, and hardcover.
Teresa, thank you so much for giving us all this great information. Thank you for being the voice that women everywhere in corporate America need. We all really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Madeline. It's been my pleasure to chat with you. We'll talk soon.
Make sure that you go online, you pre-order her book while you can. If not, then wait until it's released, but get your hands on it just because it's a great guide and really a great lesson for everyone to learn. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got more of the show. Do you love game shows and do you love trivia? Well, Switch is one of the newest ones hitting the world right now. And so we've got the host, Jeff Hefner, joining me. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So you have a very extensive acting career, and now you're switching into hosting a game show. What has it been like this far?
It's been amazing, actually. I was obviously very nervous to take a leap like this. It's not like the scripted world that I come from. It's very, very unscripted, and I've never considered anything like this. And it was just a pure like, let's go for it. And I'm so glad that I did. I've had so much fun. This show is an absolute joy.
I feel like going from the scripted world to something where it's upbeat, fast-paced, and just completely on the fly has to be a ton of fun. Now, for people who maybe have not heard of Switch yet, can you explain kind of the concept and the game that goes into it?
Sure. We kind of call it musical chairs without the chairs, right? So there's no points in this game. There's 5 contestants on a stage, and every question they get right, they could move towards the number 1. If they get it wrong, they could move towards the number 5. Whoever's behind the number 1 at the very end is going to get a shot at $10,000.
Which makes it way more competitive, especially with all that money on the line. Now, what has it been like being on the set of this? Is it really fun to watch people bounce back and forth?
It really is. The show's new to all of us too. You know, like the traditional game show, you would stand behind your desk and you would add up points or lose points. And this, you're actually bouncing into each other. You're moving back and forth. You're in a coveted spot, and then you lose it, and you have to watch the person next to you move into it. And you can see the crestfallen look on some people's faces, or the joy. I mean, just when you think somebody will just shuffle over to their spot or walk, they dance and they sing and they make, you know, there's a lot of excitement when you get to move up. And some non-excitement when you move down. And so navigating that is really fun. It's incredible to watch. To have the seat that I have for it is so fun. And then to feel the energy from everybody. I'm a high energy guy. I get very excited. I get very into it. And they make it very easy. I have a lot of fun.
Now, as people finish at spot number 1, what do they have to do to take the chance to win $10,000?
Oh, good question. So after you win the gameplay, we have 3 rounds, and then you are behind the number 1. You get a chance, you get 1 minute to answer enough questions to get back behind the number 1. You'll go down to the 5, work your way back to the 1, and if you get the question right while standing behind the number 1, you'll win $10,000. And we've had it happen a lot.
Just like that. That's so much fun. Now, if people are interested in watching it, where can they find it?
They can find this show 7 p.m. weeknights on the Game Show Network.
And if people want to get involved and they want to try their hand at all of your trivia, what's the best way for them to get more information in participating?
That's, you know what, I believe you can submit yourself on the Game Show Network. You can say, I want to play. They will reach out, interview you, and I don't know, make it happen. Give me a call. I do know a guy.
All right, and now how are your trivia skills coming out of this now that you're hearing all the answers to the questions?
You know, even hearing the answers to the questions, I'm very humbled. I used to think I was pretty good at trivia. I know some obscure facts. I like to show off with that, but then under the gun with the camera and the lights and the movement and the speed and all the excitement, it's hard. It's really hard.
Now, what is your favorite part of doing all of this and kind of taking over the game show world right now?
You know, it's having a chance to interact face to face in a very human level, right? Like a lot of scripted work is just that. It's scripted. This, I have no idea what's going to happen. I get to really, really absorb myself into someone else's excitement, into their joy. I get to participate in that. I personally love game shows. Being a part of the game show world it's made me very happy. I love every bit of it.
I bet it's so much fun, and I bet the high-paced energy that comes along with being a game show host just gets you excited each and every day that you have to go to work.
It does. You know, we do 6 shows sometimes in a day, right? Sometimes there'll be days you crank these things out, and I can pop right up for all of them because it's always different. The people who show up to play are excited to play. The audience is into it. They're excited to play along. It makes it very easy. I will say when I come home, though, I'm beat. It is a workout. I will say that.
I can only imagine it. And having the live studio audience has to make it just like that much more high energy as people are dancing or walking or moping to their numbers. I can only imagine having that crowd there to like bring the noise is just that much more fun.
It adds to it. It's really cool. And, you know, I'll interact with the crowd in between. I'm like, did you know that? You know that? Something they're like, oh, yeah, yeah. Like, no way. You didn't know. And you'll get a little rapport going with people. And it's fun because they're seeing it for the first time. I'm seeing it for the first time. The live nature of it is really exciting, and you never know, right? And you hear people who talk about doing live performances are like, hey, you never know. And they're right. It's that there's so much excitement. And in a world where, you know, there's not as many surprises as we would hope, there's a ton on this show, and I love that.
The high energy, the surprises, and all of the fun with you 5 days a week.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, giving us all this great information, and bringing us all of this fun entertainment. I can't wait to see the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Make sure that you check out Switch. It's there 5 days a week, 7 p.m. on the Game Show Network. That way you can see Jeff and all of the excitement taking place. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got more of the show, so stay tuned.
This resort report is brought to you by Sun & Ski Sports, your new mountain sports headquarters.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this Sunday edition of Wasatch Weekends. Make sure that you tune in every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starting at 7 a.m. That way we can get you in the know before you go, bring you some great information, talk news, sports, arts, entertainment, and so much more. We'll see you next Friday.